The rain drummed against the grand estate's windows, a symphony of fate whispering in the dark. Margaret Sinclair stood in the master bathroom, her manicured fingers tracing the cool rim of the bathtub. A glass of red wine trembled in her grip, though not from nerves. This was her moment. In the next room, her husband, Charles Sinclair, billionaire investor and old money royalty, loosened his tie with a weary sigh. The years had made him sluggish, predictable, a creature of habit. She had counted on that. "Margaret, darling, you run the bath yet?" Charles called from the bedroom. "Of course, love," she cooed, hiding the venom in her voice. The plan had been set weeks ago, the pieces falling into place with an almost divine ease. Late nights spent tangled with Diego, their young, sun-kissed landscaper, had been intoxicating. His Guatemalan accent, the way his hands worked rough earth yet caressed her with such tenderness. Margaret was drowning in desire, and only one obstacle stood in her way. Charles entered the bathroom, yawning. His wealth, once the most attractive thing about him, was now a shackle she wanted to cast off. He trusted her implicitly, never questioned her motives. It would be his undoing. Margaret knelt beside the tub, swishing her hand in the warm water. "Just perfect," she purred. Charles smiled, stepping in. The steam curled around him like a ghostly omen. Margaret reached behind her and retrieved the carefully hidden electric hairdryer. "Goodbye, darling," she whispered. The scream barely escaped his throat before the electricity surged through his body. His limbs jerked violently, water splashing over the porcelain edge. His eyes bulged, uncomprehending, and then, nothing. Silence. Margaret exhaled, her body tingling with adrenaline. She counted to 30 before pulling the dryer out, letting it clatter onto the tile. The deed was done. Charles Sinclair, the great mogul, was dead. And soon, she'd be far away with Diego. She hurriedly called 911, feigning horror, playing the grieving widow. An unfortunate accident, she would tell them. No one would suspect the devoted wife. But Diego had a different script. 2 nights later, under the cover of darkness, they met at their secret rendezvous, the secluded lakeside cabin. Margaret arrived first, gripping the briefcase of money from Charles's accounts, her heart pounding with giddy anticipation. Then Diego arrived, his emerald eyes sharp in the moonlight. He moved toward her with that same sensual grace that had entranced her. But something was different. "Diego, my love," she breathed. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Is the money all here?" he asked, voice smooth as silk. She grinned, opening the case. "Every cent. Just as we planned." His fingers traced the edges of the case before his hands moved faster than she'd ever seen. A thin, coiled wire looped around her neck before she could gasp. "D." The word choked in her throat, her vision swimming with stars as he tightened his grip. Margaret thrashed, clawing at his hands, her body convulsing against him. But Diego was strong, stronger than she had ever realized. He whispered something in Spanish, something she didn't understand, as the darkness swallowed her whole. Her body crumpled onto the wooden floor. Diego exhaled, checking her pulse. Nothing. His young wife, Camila, stepped out from the shadows. "It's done?" she asked, her voice steady. Diego nodded, tucking the money under his arm. She thought she was the only one with a plan. Camila kissed him softly. Together, they disappeared into the night, leaving nothing behind but the whispers of betrayal. The humid air of Guatemala wrapped around Camila as she stepped off the private plane, her fingers still tingling from the weight of the money. Diego walked beside her, sunglasses concealing the sharp, calculating glint in his emerald eyes. They had done it. Charles Sinclair was dead. His wife, Margaret, was buried in the woods, a mere casualty of their grand escape. And now, millions sat safely in an offshore account, accessible only by the two of them. Diego had promised her a new life, mansions, yachts, a future without struggle. But Camila had her own dreams, and they no longer included him. As they drove through the winding roads leading to their villa in Antigua, Diego sighed contentedly. "We finally made it, mi amor." He took her hand and kissed it. No more hiding. No more pretending. She smiled back, soft and sweet. "No more pretending," she echoed. But inside, she was already plotting. While Diego had been in America, seducing Margaret and playing his part, Camila had not been waiting idly. She had met Mateo, a rugged, passionate man who made her feel alive in ways Diego never could. He wasn't calculating. He wasn't ruthless. He loved her, truly loved her, and they had made their own plans, ones that didn't include Diego. That night, at their villa overlooking the rolling green hills, Camila prepared Diego's favorite drink, rum with lime and honey. But this time, she added something extra, a potent sedative. She walked out onto the terrace, where Diego stood shirtless, gazing over the landscape. His dark skin glistened under the moonlight. He turned as she approached, taking the glass from her hands. "To us," he murmured before drinking deeply. Camila smiled. "To us." Minutes later, his vision blurred. He stumbled forward, gripping the railing. "Cami!" "What?" She caught him, whispering in his ear. "I never stopped loving someone else." Diego tried to speak, but his body was already betraying him. His knees buckled, his breathing slowed. Camila pressed a kiss to his forehead before pushing him over the edge. The drop wasn't long, but it was brutal. His body hit the rocks below with a sickening crunch. The sound of footsteps emerged from the darkness.
Mateo.
He stepped beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. They stared down at Diego's broken body, the waves beginning to lap at his form. "He won't be needing his half of the money," Camila whispered. Mateo smirked, kissing her neck. "No, he won't." The offshore account was still accessible, to her alone now. As sirens wailed in the distance, Camila turned in Mateo's arms. She had played them all, and now, the money, the future, the power, belonged to her.